Both meditation and contemplation are practices. Meditation focuses inward, while contemplation goes outward. Can you explain how we can incorporate contemplation into our daily routine? Very good question. Okay, put that down. Because I have to read another question that picks up with it. What is prana? How do we sense or feel it? Very good question. Are you being empirical? Is it necessary for our development to experience this? Aha! Very, very perceptive, inquisitive student. And this goes with it too. Would you compare, contrast, and elaborate on stillness and silence? We'll touch, and then I'm going to try to connect them all in a unified manner, which may throw new light on each one when they're conjoined. That's called yoga. In the act of meditation, meditare, as they call it in Latin, which simply means to dwell within, from the Latin. We have this capacity, as it were, to turn our minds inside out, to go inside. And in that act of going inside, we can examine the content that we've piled up. We're able to observe, examine what we have experienced. And we call that history. Spelled backwards, memory. At the same time, we can also, as it were, peek over our shoulder as we're going about our business. We have this ability to kind of be in two places at once. Be actively engaged as you're cooking the meal, and you can be observing. Are the ingredients bubbling up the right way, Is the aroma at the right flavor? So we're able to that, and of course alter the reality as we're going, and we can, as it were, watch ourselves as we're doing it. It's amazing when you think about it. As if we had a two-tiered mind. Now, in the act of meditation, we're going to go inside, but we're not going to walk down the halls of our memory and inspect the contents. Nor are we to pay any attention to the environment and all its changes. You're going to recede from these realities. It won't hurt you. You won't get lost. You will enter a different kind of experience. That's difficult to describe because it's not an idea. It's not a discursive adventure in thinking. It's a kind of inward dwelling. I've got to search for the words. In which, now here's the strange part when you try to explain this to a businessman. It's usually hopeless. You focus yourself in such a way interior that you can observe your thoughts coming before you, and they will, spontaneously. You didn't solicit them. They simply walk by. Oh, I haven't thought about that in a long time. You may travel to your past, as it were. Something from your childhood, the day you got married, your firstborn. Wow. Meditation is a wonderful art of bringing forth what you've forgotten. At the same time, you may have wonderful memories. Oh, look at this. That time you were walking through the Louvre and you were visiting Van Gogh's paintings. Oh my God. Or Rembrandt's. Huh? Or the night you heard the loon. All marvelous, interesting, and sinister things can come forth. Something may come up that you have not faced that's harmful. So your suppressions will also assert themselves. That is to your benefit. You know, think about that kind of security that you have, that your body will attempt in every way it can to heal you, to prevent further damage. Meditation is like a cheap consultation. So, in the act of meditation, we discover a new experience which seems to be empty. No ideas, no emotions, no arousal of any particular feeling, just silence. And I'm supposed to be still. Remember stillness here? Why still? Because that's when it happens. That's one of the rules of the game. You want to enter into the game? You got to have stillness. You suddenly realize you're breathing. Oh. You've just moved to a subtler level. Actually, that's the way it happens. It keeps going into subtler levels. Oh, I'm breathing. Oh, better lower it. Get it down to the diaphragm, not up here all the time. Okay, down here. Oh, that feels good. You do get a feeling, fine. But you don't keep searching for that feeling. Do you mind this long-winded way to go into meditation? I'm glad you do. So, in the act of meditation, simply, we dwell upon the quiet darkness. That's our object. Because the mind needs an object. It cannot be without an object. And this is about as simple as you can make it. You close your eyes, you sit still, you calm your breathing down, and voila. You're in the act of meditation. You let your thoughts rove by, okay? You say, so what? So, okay, I'm in the act of meditation. Do you know what's happening to you biologically? We know that, huh? The endorphins, everything. The body's healing itself. This is proven. Wow. And I don't even feel it yet. Now here's the magical part of meditation, gang. You're at what is known first as the gross level of awareness. Now, I do not in any way derogate the word gross. I use it with respect because it is so meaningful, meaning that it's at the surface. It's just entering in. You need to be aware of that so you can compare and enjoy the adventure. So the gross level of holding on to this chair is what I can feel, the solidness. This, whether it's smooth or rough, that's the gross level, fine. So when you go into meditation, you're in the gross level as you feel your breathing, you kind of get the body still, and then slowly, 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 you enter more into the silence, the stillness. Now, the second magical thing happens. You can get to the point in your stillness that you can feel maybe there's something awry in one of your muscles. Oh, but you didn't feel it before because it was too subtle. And you can say, heal. And the soreness may begin to relieve or actually go away. Now you're going deeper. The awareness in which you entered into meditation now is getting more and more refined. That's the word I can think of. That refinement, hang on for this, is the phase of prana. Prana is the life force at the subtle level, whereas the act of breathing oxygen in and out is the gross level of prana. You get prana from 5 different sources. Food brings it to you, water brings it to you, people bring it to you. Haven't you admitted that, known that? When you get in the presence of certain people, you just enjoy being with them. You're feeling their prana, their energy. The sunlight gives it to you. Comes in as vitamin D sometimes. One left. Ideas. Ideas can, hold on, it can also reverse prana. A morose idea starts to age you. You're heading towards illness. Keep that in mind. That's why this is so powerful. Of all the 5, it's the most powerful. So your intent is crucial. Now, because your intent in meditation is to dwell upon your nature in its subtlest form, the gift nature now gives you is your awareness becomes more acute about life, your future, nature, big nature, your activities, your job, people, friends, your children. In other words, there is an increase in the perceptivity, I like that word, of life. Because the prana is manifesting itself in and through your consciousness. Wow. Question?
Is prana a thing? You said it's a you just said it's a phase.
It's a force.
It's a force.
Not a thing so much as a force.
So not a tangible.
No.
Subtle.
No, it's too subtle. It's real, but subtle. Like an idea. An idea is not a thing, but it's real. Consciousness exerts prana. When consciousness wants to exert or come up with an idea, boom, prana brought it forth. So in a sense you can say your ideas are embodying prana that was stimulated by consciousness. It's very subtle. It's hard to get the right words to see the sequence here. Like I said too, prana gives off an aroma. No, that's why the animals can sense. Because fear and anger give off definite aromas to an animal. They pick up on that. That's why they begin to wonder about this. Otherwise, you come in, you're integrated. Boy, they love to be near you because they want to borrow some of that energy. They like it. So think about that. Gives off an aroma. and a visibility if you can discern it. Swamiji could. Now, hang on for this. When you would walk into his office, and he peered at you, he didn't see, if I was there, what I saw. He penetrated. He saw how your lungs were moving, in color, the throbbing of other blood, or other organs. He saw if there was any blockage. In other words, he literally read your health. And that often influenced him because he would drop hints. He'd say, you ought to give up meat, or drink more milk, or something like that. And you think, why? Because he could see what was missing in your body. Amazing. Now, how could he do that? He was actually seeing in three-dimensional form the dynamic formation of prana, which was your organs. All your organs are nothing but prana, by the way, in different formations. How about that? Got prana. And because he had arrived in himself at such a subtle level of silence. That's the golden key. The silence within allows you not to be disturbed by the static of life. Not bad, but it's static. So you penetrate the static, get into the silence, and that gives you a revelation of perception. So now you can perceive below the surface of anything you look at. He could then look at the maple tree and see the sap running, if he wanted to. Think about that. He could look at a flower and he could see how soon the bud is going to burst. And of course he could say, come on. He could bring it forth. That's where you're all headed. So meditation prepares you to unite yourself to reality in all its levels and domains. Wow. Now, meditation is properly done in stillness and silence. There's no such thing as moving meditation technically. What that refers to is staying calm as best you can as you go about your day, without getting all tense and riled up. That's meditation in action. Okay, so we take a little stretch here for that word. But actually the essence and the real meaning of meditation is it must be done in silence, in darkness, so that there are no distractions. That's the key. And that takes a while. That's why it's a virtue. It's self-training. So the first major virtue for most people to get going is the virtue of meditation. You're using a power. You have decided to work on yourself. You're turning in, not to escape from life, but to be able to become more aware of life. Okay? Now, take that as the launch board into contemplation. I want to be more aware of life. Don't you want to know more about your children if you could? Wouldn't you like to know more about the future? Huh? Or would you like to know more about how to take care of your body? Or would you like to know what's coming down the pike so that you could avoid it if you had to, or take advantage of it? Now, watch what happens with contemplation. Contemplation is your eyes are wide open. There are two major types, and they never talk about this. Most of us identify contemplation with the act of gazing, which is what it is. The outward gaze. Meditation is the inward gaze. And you all have had experiences many times, in varying degrees of intensity, of observing something, usually something that captures you with its beauty. And usually you're not moving. You're so enthralled, you just want to be there with it. What I call, you want to behold it. So you have the gaze that beholds, and you dwell upon the radiance, because that's what's caught you, the radiance of its beauty. Truth is radiating its beauty. Time vanishes. You're perfectly still like you were in meditation, but this time with your eyes open. And you are being fed, as it were. You are being gifted by the object that you behold. Another union, another yoga. You're in perfect union with that object. And it is giving you its essence, its nature. It's unfolding before you. You have listened to a piece of music that just captures you, right? You can sometimes be reading say a novel, and you just get caught up in the description, and you pause, and you're just dwelling upon that description. Huh? Notice how this can happen. Don't narrow it down just to gazing at the moon. Any outward gaze that holds you in the rapture of its beauty. How do you like that term? That's what does it. That's contemplation. Formally. That's one type. There are two types. And that's the one we normally associate with. Now, a modification of that. Are you ready? Hang on to that, because this is important as I read this description. In 1983, the Nobel Prize was awarded to 81-year-old Barbara McClintock for her discoveries in gene research. Much of her work was done on the corn plant. Her intimate knowledge of the plants came from going into the fields and being with the corn. Notice that last phrase, being with the corn. Through her contemplation, she developed a feeling, that's her word, for the organism. Quote, I don't feel I really know the story if I don't watch the plant all the way along. Hear what the material has to say, like music. Let it come to me. I have learned so much about the corn plant that when I see things, I can interpret them right away. Contemplation is a revelation of knowledge. Keep that in mind. And what are you using? Not discursive reason, intuition. The essence of contemplation is intuition, not rationation. So adept did she become at recognizing the outward signs of those structural alterations in the chromosomal composition of the plant, that she could simply look at the plants themselves and know what the microscopic inspection of the cell's nuclei would later reveal. Can you imagine? She could penetrate, and that's the essence of contemplation when it really develops. There are no secrets to you. Swamiji could sit in the chair and tell me exactly what was going on in Moscow. Sitting right there with me. There's his body. And he's just kind of staring out, and he'd tell me what was going on. Because he was there. Why? He contemplated. It was his intent. Her hours of contemplation eventually evoked a process of creative insight that rational analysis later confirmed through lengthy laboratory procedures. She said, when you suddenly see the problem, then something happens and you have the answer. Because she penetrated. Before you're able to put it into words even. It's all done. Subconsciously, she called it. This has happened too many times to me, and I know when to take it seriously. Now, would you like to know the second type? Many years ago, there was a famous professional basketball team called the Boston. Right. And some of those marvelous players were just amazing to watch with their dexterity and their speed and their cleverness. And one in particular, Bill Russell. Wow. Came from San Francisco, University of San Francisco. And I used to love to watch basketball in those days because these men were so competent in their art. He wrote a book because certain things happen in certain games, he said. I will crudely, unfortunately, I wish I could read it. I've got this, it's not in my wellness tree, but it's in another book. I can't remember. It might be in Walking. He said, suddenly, notice suddenly again, he said, I felt the game suddenly rise to a new level of dynamism. I knew where the ball was going to go. Can you imagine this? I knew what player was going to get it next. And I knew I was not only participating, I could will the ball. And it would follow my willing. And I noticed the other team also rose. But we were more dominant. And I would just play and I would push with everything I got. And I never got tired. And the game kept rising and rising. And I knew what shot was going to go through. I knew ahead of time who was going to get it, who was going to pitch it up to the basket. And I hated it when the ref stopped us for anything because that interrupted the... Now it's called dynamic contemplation.
That's like flow.
You remember the phrase, you're in the flow? That's exactly it. Now, the more formal one that we talked about is comparable to what James Joyce called the ascetic arrest. You're just there. Ascetic arrest. It's a beautiful description. Isn't it strange how we have two different types? And no one ever talks about the dynamic one. Now, again, how do you prepare for the dynamic one? The other one, meditation, we know. Again, it's your devotion to the enterprise, the game. Put it this way. There are two things that are required if you want to go to the heights in either meditation, contemplation, either dynamic or ascetic arrest. And the two things are this. You must have a vision and you must love it. I want to be a meditator. I want to be a contemplator. And you have to fall in love with it. When you do that, you'll go all the way. And I think, myself, parents, if they make the child the object of their contemplation, can read the future in them. It's not that hard. Not the whole, 60 years, but they will read certain qualities they know are in that child that are going to come out. Yeah, it's the combination. The vision, and you fall in love with it. In answer to the question, is it necessary for our development to experience prana? We can't help but. It's no way. It's like saying, can you live without breathing? No way. Huh? You just have to. Whether you appreciate it, whether you pay attention to it, you got to do it. It's just one of those things that life demands if you're going to exist. Purpose in life. How do we grasp a deeper understanding of our purpose in life outside of our roles as parent? I would put beside our roles as parent, wife, sister, worker bee. Oh, you really are? Okay. Well, what's wrong with those purposes? Why can't you optimize them? A lot of things kind of happen accidentally. We almost stumble upon things. You go to a coffee shop and somebody drops some money and you reach down and pick it up and hand it to them and they say thank you. And your eyes meet. Maybe out of the kindness of his heart to say, may I offer you biscotti? And you think, hey, why not? And you sit down and chat. Perfect accidental meeting, huh? All right. Who knows where that may lead to? You pick up a book. You read a column in the paper. Something you see on TV. Your child tells you something that went on at school. Something you overhear at work. Suddenly you're touched by that and you begin to ponder that. By the way, that's another secondary form of contemplation. Pondering. It's probably the most simple, the most active one that we participate in. We ponder things. So the act of discursive examination or pondering is a secondary form of contemplation. Because what we want to get to is the conclusion. That's what holds us and moves us. It's not the pondering. We're trying to get somewhere. Oh, should I do it this way? Should I do it this way? Should I invest here? Invest there? And then you move on. That we do all the time. That it's a kind of a discursive contemplation, as it is, or reasoning, another word for it. So purpose, the crisis of a purpose usually hits us at different points in life. When you're growing up as a teenager, what am I going to do? I got to earn a living. Oh God. You just don't know what to do. Some people are very slow growers, and then suddenly decide, I need to expand. I may have to change my job. And it may not be anybody's fault, you might not have an oppressive boss, but you just decide, nope. Some factors come in and you assess them, you say, yeah, I don't want to go down this path. I didn't see this when I started. It took me a while. And so, this is the only intelligent and beneficial way to act. I've got to quit this job and go somewhere else. And then it's sometimes hard. Where do I go? I know it. You've got to probe, assess, ask questions, and finally. Now, ultimately, you are going to come, if you are intelligent, you will ultimately come to realize overall, beyond, notice I didn't, or better, beside being a parent, business person, caretaker, artist, craftsman, inventor, entrepreneur, without downgrading those in any way, there's something else, and you realize you have an optimum purpose. To resolve the question, who am I? Meaning, what is my nature? Explicitly. I know I'm a human being. I'm female, I'm male, so on. I'm an American, I'm French. No, it goes beyond culture, gender. It goes into your very essence. And that can be expressed through the other modes of identity that you're playing with. Or rather, better, I like the word roles. We're always and necessarily involved in roles in society. We have to be. And mother is a role, father's a role. But there's only one identity. That's your nature. And the confusion comes when you put those two and get them mixed up, as it happens with a lot of military personnel. We won't go into that one. So, purpose is something we just have to keep asking ourselves. Well, usually it's the refinement of your powers. You have more control over your emotions. Control doesn't mean suppression. It means I'm able to use them without interference. They don't jam up each other. I don't lose my temper. Notice the phrase, lose your temper. I find my temper and then use it appropriately. Never suppress anger if it's righteous. Because Swami often say, if you can't get angry, you can't love. And I totally agree with that. Because you won't defend what you love. Now, so it's, and this is the strange, it's kind of the pedestrian path to spirituality. The act of daily living intelligently will take you all the way. All the way. Learning to live intelligently in the environment, in the ambience, the location of where you are, even if it shifts, that will take you all the way. And that's your ultimate purpose. To, and we call it another word, you're fulfilling yourself. Look, go back and compare. Or observe your children and your family. They don't know where they're going. They don't know anything about life. They're totally dependent on you. And their growth is a growth of independence and self-reliance. They learn to trust their powers, after banging themselves up enough times. And they respect you, but they no longer have to be so dependent upon you. And that's how we acquire, you might say, the real purpose of why we're here. To know and enjoy life as we encounter it.
Swamiji?
Yes, ma'am.
What also about the idea of following your bliss and things that you're naturally drawn to and attracted to? Is that
Yep.
part of your purpose?
Yep. Because that particular art, that technique, opens you up into greater avenues. Huh?
Okay.
It's an instrument. It's not an end.
Right.
There are only two things. It's an instrument, it's a means, or it's an end. It's a means to, and in that acquisition of the end, you'll understand the means even better, and you'll refine it. Think, for example, if you had teachers learn how to play an instrument.
Mhm.
At first you have to concentrate on the means. Because you're fumbling around, you're trying to coordinate, and slowly that coordination comes, the habit is formed, and pretty soon you can play at will. You're achieving your end finally. You're no longer dependent upon just the means.
So how is being in a state of yoga nidra different from being in samadhi?
Oh, good. Good point. Good point. It's advanced. Oh, samadhi. I don't know why my mind went. Okay.
Mm.
You're on the brink of samadhi,
Oh, okay.
he said. It's the last step.
Okay.
You're peeking in, actually. The doors are open, but you're not fully in there yet. But you're just on the edge, ready to topple in. That's what he told me. That's the way the ground language he used. He says, you're right on the brink. But you get he said you get the benefits, many of the benefits from samadhi while you're in yoga nidra. See? But you're just not established in it fully. That's what yoga nidra, that's what samadhi does. That means you can carry samadhi during the day. You see, what we were doing in a very mild way but accurately, as we were in our discussion and tossing the questions back and forth and the energy was changing, that was, in a sense, kind of like dynamic contemplation. Right? Because there was emotion here that was moving person to person, thought and being. What about this aspect? Yes, and then different forms, different grades of it, so to speak, always happening.